"I say we just open it," Carr said, nudging Hammond's shoulder. Hammond shook their head, keeping their eyes on the client, who they were supposed to be guarding. "Negative. Our mission." "Screw the mission, with whatever treasure is inside." Hammond shot a glare in his direction. "Have you forgotten that we all swore on our blades? Besides," they waved their rifle towards the ancient vault door that their client, Blackstone, was standing in front of. "Look at the forge-blasted thing." The vault door was covered in glowing fissures, like the ones that crisscrossed the entire planet's surface. Except these ones had been writhing like snakes since Blackstone started chanting and gesturing at the door. And now the ground was shaking beneath their feet. They'd felt minor tremors since they'd made planetfall, but these felt worse, almost as if the planet itself was shaking in protest. "Just be ready for anything," Hammond ordered. Carr snorted, then cocked his head as if listening to something, his eyes seeming to glow like burning embers for a moment. A trick of the light, perhaps? Hammond decided to keep an eye on Carr, with the safety off, just in case. Hello, and welcome to The Bad Spot, an actual play podcast where I, Matt Risby, and I alone am playing through Ironsworn Starforged. This week's Tale from the Drift was from Rob Ruthven, who has delivered a very, very tense and atmospheric piece of writing that is exactly in keeping with the vibe of this show, and I want to give a huge thank you to Rob for taking the time to write and send that in. Rob has his own solo actual play blog where he is playing the original Ironsworn as Marek, a free warden trying desperately to prevent the outbreak of a war. And if you want to check that out, and I thoroughly recommend you do, then you'll find a link to Rob's blog in the comments below. If you want to roll some dice and write something for me to read at the beginning of a future episode, then the submission guidelines and contact details are on screen now. And whilst I have you, why don't you leave a like, subscribe, and click that little bell icon so you can follow along with the campaign each and every week. Last time out, Archer enacted the final stage of his plan to get the survivors off the planet through the Iron Gate. And this stage of the plan involved trying to persuade a flock of ostrich lizard creatures, now known as drakes, to first let Archer ride them, but then secondly fly them up and through the gate. Archer also realises that he has no guarantee of getting them anywhere safely except the Clanthorn stronghold of Sepulchre, which he warns them could very well be a war zone when they arrive. In short, the plan is very dangerous, but it is also the only plan they have. And this is understandably met with skepticism, and a portion of the crew decide that they would rather live on this planet and continue to wait for another ship to come through the gate than to fly into near certain death. But the plan goes ahead, and Archer and the rest of the crew set to work trying to tame the drakes and coax them into being their steeds. And overall it works, but only Archer, Cole, and a handful of the others are able to ride, then fly the drakes with any degree of safety or confidence. And this leads to more of the crew having to stay behind, despite desperately wanting to leave. Cole offers to stay, but they convince him to go, and to find the Iron Gate they disappeared through in the first place, return back here and rescue them. Archer swears an iron vow to see it done. In the morning, Archer, Cole, and the remaining survivors mount their drakes and fly them up and through the gate. Back on Sepulchre, Luna is taken down to the Iron Gate on the lower level by Azrael Vega and some Bannersworn. He explains to her that she must open the gate voluntarily, or the Soulbinders will make her do it. Before she can protest, she comes face to face with the Grand Inquisitor, whose shadow controls her mind, keeping her subservient. The Inquisitor threateningly demands that she open the gate, and perhaps to his surprise, she agrees, but under the condition that the shadow let her go. Suspicious, the Inquisitor sees to it that Luna is freed, but is escorted to the gate by 2 Vanguard. Luna feigns being actually able to open the gate, using this time as a distraction so she can disarm one of the Vanguard and fight her way out, or die trying. To her surprise, the gate opens, and in the confusion, she takes out both Vanguard before being fired upon by the rest of the troops in the corridor. As she takes cover, something comes through the gate, knocking the Grand Inquisitor down and pinning them to the ground. To her overwhelming surprise, it is Archer riding a giant lizard. So, I guess we're going to enter the fray. Why not? It's been a long time since we've had a scrap, no? When was the last one? I don't think... In fact, no, I'm sure we haven't had one this season. We haven't at all. We didn't fight any of the Art Dragons or anything. They just attacked us. But we didn't fight back. So I guess the last fight we had was when we fought our way out of Sepulchre the first time. And here we are again. So there's something of a nice symmetry to that, I guess. So let's blow the dust off the enter the fray move, shall we? And it says, when you initiate combat or are forced into a fight, envision your objective and give it a rank. And then it says roll to see if you're in control, and then how you enter the fray. So let's first name this thing and, what's our objective. And it is very simply to fight our way out of Sepulchre. That's it. In fact, I think that is exactly what we called it last time we did it. So we're going to call this Fight Our Way Out of Sepulchre again. So yeah, we are going to fight our way out Groundhog Day style. What rank should this be? And that's a very good question. Last time, I believe, it was formidable. And certainly lots has changed since then. Definitely in terms of what we're facing. What we're looking at, there's whatever Bannersworn there are left, which is less than we faced the first time around, granted. But now the Soulbinders are here. And whilst they themselves aren't probably that tasty in a fight, their shadows are clearly immensely powerful mystics. But one wonders what happens if their connection is severed. I don't know. I really don't know. But they are clearly kind of enthralled to the Soulbinders, I guess. What happens if you take a Soulbinder out? Who knows? Anyway, that is beside the point. We're still trying to figure out how difficult this is going to be. And I think what makes this fight more difficult is not the Soulbinders. What makes this more challenging, what makes this encounter a little bit spicy, is the presence of the Vanguard. And I think I said, in a decision that I now totally regret because it is kind of backfiring, that there were 24 Vanguard here, and they are heavily armoured and heavily armed, whilst we have mainly non-lethal weaponry and are riding lizards. And last time we found ourselves in this predicament, last time we had to fight our way out of Sepulchre, it was a trap that had been set for us. We were walking into it, right? They knew we were coming. But this time round, we do have the element of surprise. Because I'd say that bursting out of the gate on the backs of reptilian ostriches is actually pretty surprising as far as surprises go. And also, crucially, the one thing that is different this time is that there are maybe 100 or so prisoners in the hangar. And that is 100 or so people that would be theoretically sympathetic to our cause. And they are right where we're going, right? They are in the hangar, which is where the eclipse is. And also, and this is a test of who was listening, Blake Sutton is free and running around with an assault rifle somewhere. So, all of these things considered, how difficult is this going to be? Well, on balance, I think it's actually probably the same, right? It's formidable. Because if we were going to make it extreme, which is the next rank up, That's twice as difficult, and I don't think this is twice as difficult. So what all of this waffling and conjecture is leading to is that this is going to be a formidable combat. So we now have a name and a rank. What we need to do now is actually make the move. So how are we entering the fray? Here are options. Well, we're not caught in a trap, so we can definitely rule out that last option, rolling plus wits. We are at close quarters, kind of Netflix Marvel show corridor fight style, so it could be rolling plus iron. We're not facing off against our foe, so I think rolling plus heart is out. And we're not preparing to act against an unaware foe, because our foe, whilst they are definitely unaware, we're here now. You'd use this option if you were ambushing someone, but in this case, it's not appropriate. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to say that we're going to roll plus edge, because we are on the move. And Archer's goal, and it would have been his goal before he passed through the gate, would be to move through Sepulchre as quickly as possible. And having just seen what he's wandered into, that hasn't changed. He wants to just get moving, get to the hangar, get to the Eclipse, and get the hell out of Dodge. And in this initial moment, this kind of moment where we are entering the fray, he doesn't have time to size up his options. He doesn't have time to spend a few minutes thinking about the best course of action. They have wandered right into the thick of it, and they're not in the best position, so they are going to need to boogie right away. And we're going to bounce out of here as quickly as we've arrived and hope that the shock of this insane scene that everyone is witnessing is enough to put our enemies on the back foot. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to enter the fray rolling plus edge. Well, I was thinking it has been a while since we rolled a miss. And it's been even longer since we rolled a miss with a match. The double snowmen on the challenge dice here have really brought the hammer down on our dreams, but it is not a problem, because as keen-eyed viewers will have observed, I have been very, very frugal with my momentum, knowing that at some point Archer would need to be bailed out, and here we are. Now we're at maximum momentum of 10, so burning that would straight up replace our action score of 6, and turning a miss with a match into a strong hit with a match, which is one hell of a swing in our fortune. So we burn our momentum here and we reset back down to 2. It has bailed us out, but it also puts us right down to nearly nothing. So let's have a look and see what happens on a strong hit. It says on a strong hit, you take both. And that is, the options are take +2 momentum and you are in control. Now, both of these are important, but that +2 momentum makes it slightly less of a big swing. So our momentum is now at 4. And crucially, we are in control of this combat. And what of that match? I actually think we're going to bank that for now, and we'll kind of figure that out as we go. So before we start rumbling, let's envision how this goes down. So the Drake that is currently pinning down the Grand Inquisitor, the Drake that Archer is straddling, rears up its long neck and screeches again. As it does, the gate pulses in a flash of white light, a second, third, and fourth time, as a second, third, and fourth reptile come scrabbling through. Cole and his crew are all present and correct, trying to quickly assess the situation whilst trying to steady their understandably skittish mounts. Luna stares open-mouthed at this development. She always felt in her bones that she would see Archer again, but not so soon. It had been a matter of hours. But what on earth was happening? Like, how did he get back here so quickly? Who were these people he's with? And why the hell are they on giant lizards? I mean, for now, she's just glad he's back. And as she starts to return fire, the beast that Archer is riding bears down on the Grand Inquisitor, who is still trying feebly to protect himself. The lizard rears its head back and then pecks down violently into the glass helmet of the Inquisitor. And the glass splinters, and the helmet fogs with vapour on the inside. And the Inquisitor's arms wave wildly, trying to reach at the control panel that's down on his suit. But as he struggles, his movements become weaker as the last of whatever gas was keeping him alive in the suit escapes, and his body goes limp and still. The Drake screeches once again as the lights in the corridor flicker, as laser fire fills the air, sparks rain down. An archer spurs the great beast forward, and as he does, he holds out a hand towards Luna, who grabs it and hauls herself deftly up behind him. And without a beat, she says, "What took you so long?" And Archer says, "Shut up and start shooting." And she's kind of like using his shoulder to rest on, and she starts like popping off shots into the corridor, and it's like smoky, and the lights are cutting in and out, and there's figures everywhere, there's people ducking in and out of the smoke, frantically firing back in the chaos. And at the end of the corridor, through the haze and the sparks and the laser fire, Archer can see that service elevator with its doors open and the light on inside. And quickly remembering the layout of where they are, Archer remembers that there is an access staircase somewhere between the gate and the elevator. So those are their two options. And to access either, Archer has only one choice. And that choice is to lead a charge. So what we're going to do here is we are going to have a good old-fashioned cavalry charge headlong into the chaos and hope that we can reach the elevator or the staircase. Either's fine. And I think we're going to represent that in-game by making the move gain ground. Let's have a look at the move. It says, when you are in control and take action in a fight to reinforce your position or move toward an objective, vision your approach and roll. And then we've got our options. Okay, so this is either going to be rolling plus edge, as you could argue that we are in pursuit and running down people who are fleeing. But I actually think the more obvious option is rolling plus heart, because we are charging boldly into action, and not only action, danger, and leading others in that general direction. So I think Archer, and this is how it's going to go down, kind of despite himself, and almost totally uncharacteristically, lets out a scream, like this kind of like call to charge, and he is giddying his steed down the corridor with his pistol trained ahead into the throng, and he's kind of like snapping off shots with every bound that the Drake takes. And Luna, who is riding shotgun, has her vanguard rifle kind of spitting out bursts of fire, whilst behind them, Cole and his crew rally into formation as Archer leads the charge into madness. So, let's gain ground, rolling plus heart. Okay, that is a weak hit. Okay, on a hit, there are three options. You have mark progress, take 2 momentum, or add +1 on your next move. On a strong hit, you get to choose 2. On a weak hit, you choose 1. So, the important thing is we're still in control. But because we rolled a weak hit, we only get to choose one of the options. Now, momentum would put us up to 6, which is not to be scoffed at, because that's kind of moving into useful territory. And nor is +1 on our next move. But in these situations, I always feel like marking progress is something you should always be looking to do in a fight. And that, in this instance, is what we're going to do here. So we are going to fill our first box on this formidable combat encounter. So let's put that together and see what it looks like. Led by Archer, the 4 Drakes charge down the corridor, kind of ploughing into and through the assembled ranks of mainly Bannersworn. In fact, yeah, it's all Bannersworn down here. And this cavalry charge has them diving for cover, or they're being sent flying by the stampeding beasts. An archer can't see much in the chaos, but he can feel this powerful creature below him smashing bodies out of the way, and he's firing as he goes, but there's no accuracy here. It's just more a kind of suppressive fire. But he knows they've got to kind of press the advantage. They've got to push on because there's only 4 of them. And once the shock and awe has worn off, the Clanthorn Bannersworn are going to realise that they actually have them totally outnumbered and completely outgunned. So what Archer is leading everyone towards is the exits. And I think that from our rolling, they have made good progress. But any further, and they are going to have to make another move. But what I want to do quickly, before I forget, because I will forget, is cash in that match from the enter the fray move, because I've thought of something, and if I do leave it any longer, I will totally forget it. So what I want to do is I want to establish what has happened to the shadow once the Inquisitor got taken out. Because we've kind of established that it's kind of like this psychic tether that's in place. And the shadow has clearly been doing the Soulbinder's bidding. And now that they are dead, what has happened to the shadow? Well, what I'm going to say is that since that tether has been severed, the shadow is just kind of wandering around, like totally oblivious to the danger around them, to the situation, kind of in this catatonic state. They, to this point, had spent presumably a great deal of their young lives tethered in this way, being a shadow to the Soulbinders, and now it's kind of like the factory reset has kicked in. They're free of the tether and they don't really know what to do. And this has narrative importance, right? Because in amongst the chaos, Archer sees this former shadow, just a kid, like a boy in their mid-teens. Their head is shorn, and they have black iron protruding sporadically through their deathly pale, almost totally white skin. There's a piece on the side of their head, there's some in their neck, and then much more in their hands. And this is narratively important because Archer has seen this before, right? He catches this kid's eye, and he's seen something like this before in his visions, the visions of the desert, of the black glass spire, the human forms fused with black iron. And this stops Archer dead in his tracks. He pulls the Drake to a sudden stop and looks right at this kid wandering around, seemingly like completely out of it, not paying any attention to this intense firefight that's raging all around them. And I think that's when Luna swings her gun round on the kid and lines him up. But Archer kind of pushes her weird needle-like gun barrel away. This is just a kid. He doesn't know what he's capable of, but Luna does. And we're just going to use this moment, this pause in the action, to consider our next move. So we're still in control, and we need to keep pushing because we are on the lowest level of this complex. And I think that we established all the way back last season that the lower level was level 9 of 9, and the hangar is on level 6 or 5. I'm going to say 6. So we've got some way to go to get there. And what I want to do is use this moment to run down whatever Bannersworn are still left down here. Those that haven't made it to the stairs or made it to the elevator, because those are our 2 escape routes, and we need to secure both of those. So I think that Archer has paused and had this moment. And as he is pausing, he's kind of hesitating. Cole and the others race by, like guns blazing, sweeping Archer and Luna along with them, almost kind of snapping them out of this moment. And as they head further along the corridor, it's maybe like a bit clearer. There are 2 groups of Bannersworn splitting off. One is going to the elevator and one is going to the stairs. And I think that Cole and the others are just kind of opening up on the Bannersworn, and Archer and Luna catch up. Archer has his pistol ready, and Luna swings the Vanguard rifle round to fire. So what we're going to do is we're going to make the move Strike, and we're doing this from range, so this is going to be rolling plus edge. So that is a weak hit. So on a weak hit, we get to mark progress twice. But we expose ourselves to danger and we are in a bad spot. So I think what happens here is that Azrael Vega intervenes. Because we haven't seen or heard from him this episode yet. And he's down here. We know he's down here. So what I'm going to say is the cavalry charge continues with a hail of gunfire driving the Bannersworn back. But through the fire, Archer can see someone reaching the elevator first. And it's a familiar figure who, once inside, turns to face him. It's Azrael Vega, who Archer swears smiles at him as the doors close and the elevator disappears. And then it dawns on Archer why, as he realizes that in the haste of this charge, in that desire to press home that advantage, they have completely passed the stairs and are now approaching an elevator that's doors have closed and has left. So the Bannersworn who made it to the stairs are now A, behind them and in a great position to counterattack, and B, worst of all, Archer, Luna, Cole, and the Drakes have nowhere to go. They are cornered. So we are going to have to fight our way out of this backs against the wall type situation. And to do so, we are not going to make the move React Under Fire, which I initially thought about. We are going to make the move Clash. And Clash says when you're in a bad spot and fight back against a foe, roll either plus iron or plus edge. Because I think, like, as crazy as it sounds, our only option really is to kind of wheel around and just charge again, right? Because we don't have anywhere to hide. We're in a dead end. The elevator's gone, and the Bannersworn are holding the stairs and are using it for cover. So we don't have the luxury of cover. We're kind of big targets. So I think we just swing around and charge again. And if this works, we're back in control. But if it doesn't, we could be in a real pickle. So we're going to make the move Clash, and we are using our ranged weapons here as we try and close the distance to the stairs. So we'll be rolling plus edge. Ah, yeah, that's the stuff. A strong hit. On a strong hit, mark progress twice. You overwhelm your foe and are in control. So let's mark progress twice. We are up to 5 out of 10. And crucially, we're back in control. And narratively, I'm going to say that this represents us clearing this level. Like, we've taken out all the Bannersworn on this level. And I think as we wheel around to charge again, Cole has this like a flashbang grenade. And as we're reforming the line to charge with the kind of laser fire cutting through the air around us, he flings this grenade towards the stairwell. And it's a pretty spot-on, great throw, like sailing over the heads of the Bannersworn. And it explodes behind them with, funnily enough, a flash and a bang. And it sends them kind of stumbling, disorientated out of cover. And from there, Luna just takes them out with a volley of fire. And Archer is maybe a little concerned about how powerful this new gun Luna has is, because it makes short work of anything that it hits, right? This is a serious shooter. And kind of swiftly and deftly, Luna dismounts the Drake and checks the stairwell is clear. And she checks once again back down the corridor. There's nothing there. There's nothing doing, no one moving. And Archer kind of dismounts as well, but through the shifting smoke, Archer can see the teenage boy, the former Shadow, sitting amongst the bodies and the debris. They're dazed and confused and look lost. And it's a sad, sad, sorry scene. And Luna has to kind of stop Archer from heading down the corridor to investigate. And at that point, everyone else is dismounted and has started gathering up some guns and ammo. So Cole's crew and everyone now is kind of armed with actual weapons, which is obviously a big improvement. And that's when Archer does some very quick introductions. And he says, Luna, this is Cole and his crew. I'm helping them out. It's a long story. And Luna says, I'm sorry. I'm confused. Helping them out how? Archer says, it's a long story. Luna says, how long can it be? Archer says, I don't follow. Anyway, why are you still here? And Luna says, Archer, what are you talking about? What do you mean, why am I still here? He says, I mean, have you been trapped here all this time? And Luna says, Archer, you've been gone like an hour, 2 tops. And Archer looks totally befuddled. And Luna says, how long do you think you've been gone for? And Archer kind of thinks it over, kind of running the events of the last week through his head. And he says, 5 days? Then Cole cuts in and says, 6. You were asleep for 2. And Archer says, 6 days? And Luna says, kind of pinching the bridge of her nose in a reversal of how this relationship normally works. She says, okay, I can't deal with this right now, but in the short period that you've been gone, in this timeline, I actually did escape, but then some people called Soulbinders turned up, and then you could say it all got a bit out of hand. And Archer and Cole and everyone else is shocked into silence at the mention of the Soulbinders. And Cole says, the Soulbinders are here. And Luna says, inconveniently, yes. Last I saw, they had everyone in the hangar, where the eclipse is. And Archer says, everyone? Luna says, everyone. They rounded everyone up, all the prisoners, everyone who boarded from the junk fleet, everyone. And Archer says, the conduit? And Luna nods. And that's when Archer starts to pace. He is deep in thought. And we're going to make another move here. And that move is going to be check your gear, which is an odd move to make when you have 0 supply. But remember, we get to use our upgraded scavenger asset, which allows us to use our wits rather than our supply when we check our gear. So let's make the move. Rolling plus wits. A strong hit. Yes, on a strong hit, it says we have the specific thing we're looking for, and we take +1 momentum, and we also get a bonus 1 momentum from our upgraded asset too. So, quick as a flash, we are up to 6 momentum, which we will need. So, let's envision this real quick. Archer is suddenly struck by an idea, and he begins rooting around in his satchel for something. And by this point, we've established his satchel is pretty empty, but he finds something, and it's exactly what he was looking for. It's a small tool, like a small pair of pliers, but with some kind of leads that come out of it. And he walks over to a panel at the wall and pulls it loose. He reaches into the cavity behind the panel and yanks out a handful of wires and clamps this device into the mess of cables. And Luna is watching impatiently as Archer causes the panel to spark to life, and then he unspools a thin wire from his device and starts speaking into it. And he says, Griff? Come in, Griff. For once, please, for the love of... And Archer is relieved to hear those sweet, sweet beeps. And he turns to the others and says, "Okay, I've got a plan." But the others seem distracted by something. Something behind Archer. He turns to find himself looking down the barrel of a gun. An assault rifle. And holding the assault rifle is Blake Sutton. Luna raises her gun. And Blake says, "Drop it." Luna snaps back, "You drop it." And there's this standoff. In the dark, smoky corridor on the lower level of this Clan Thorn stronghold. Blake is outgunned, but she has Archer right there in her sights. But then she slowly lowers her gun because she's seen something. And whatever she has seen has her incredibly confused. And what has her confused is Cole. And with her gun down, she approaches. And there's this really strange moment. Cole seems as confused as she is, but there seems to be a connection there. And I just need to roll up a place name very quickly. 66 is Providence. Providence. So Blake says, "Port Providence." And Cole kind of looks at her and says, "Yeah, we were stationed at Port Providence. How did you know that?" And Blake says, "We've met." Cole now looks equally confused and scared. Blake continues, "Port Providence, you were there as peacekeepers. Clan Thorn had taken the refinery and you were helping to get the workers out." Cole says, "Yeah." And he's kind of looking her over, and then he sees the tattoo on her neck, the tattoo of the Kraken that runs up the side of her face. And Blake says, "I was there with my unit trying to take the refinery back. You resupplied us." Cole says, "I remember the resupply, but I don't remember you. I mean, I remember someone much younger." And Blake says, "It was 40 years ago." And Cole says, "That's not possible." And then he really does finally remember her. Or a younger version of her. And he thinks about what Archer and Luna were just talking about how long he'd been gone. And he turns to Archer and says, "Can someone please tell me when we are?" Thank you a million times. Thank you for watching. Please like this video, subscribe if you've not done so already, and click the little bell icon so you can be notified as soon as the next episode drops. I'll be back next week, but until then, it's farewell and safe passage.